Hello.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm having some technical difficulties, as you can see. But I think, let me just see if I'm missing anyone. Amy, Beth, Craig, Kathy, Emma, Kelly, and Kristen. Do I have everyone? Okay. I think that's good. Well, it's going to be a different setting today, but it's summertime, so maybe that's why it's a little more casual today. Sorry about the joining of a few minutes late, but I think we have everyone here. So how's everybody doing?
Good.
Good, good.
Okay, great. I'll let, and yeah, actually, I don't even think there would be any other folks joining because Jen can't make it. She sent me a note, and Liz is no longer part of the committee, and we have two openings. Am I missing anyone? No. Okay.
I think so.
All right.
Uh,
So in keep,
Phil's not here.
no, Phil actually asked me if he should join, and I didn't have any particular topics for him today, so
Right.
didn't think that we needed his presence today, but appreciate his willingness to join.
Did you say
Okay,
Michelle?
sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
Did you already talk about Michelle?
About, oh, Michelle, let me see. Thanks,
Said
Kathy.
she was going to join. She's sworn in.
She totally did, and she definitely was sworn in, but I don't see her waiting yet. So I'll keep an eye on that after I read this remote meeting procedure, and then I'll check one more time before we begin. How about that? Okay. In keeping with an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by committee members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting will broadcast live and be recorded on eCat. To use Zoom, you'll need to use the link on the agenda or download the Zoom application on www.zoom.us and create an account, or use one of the calling numbers listed on the agenda. You will need the webinar ID in order to join by phone only. While conducting meetings remotely, we'll endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to our standard procedures as possible. However, use of the platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. While the committee members will be on video and audio, public participants will join the webinar as attendees, meaning they will be muted with no video feed from them. And during the public portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using the raise hand function found under participants from Zoom, or make a request with the Q&A function. If you're joining only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. And if an applicant wishes to display materials, they'll just need to make the request to the chair and email materials for sharing on the screen. And when starting any testimony, please state your name and address for the record. As in any public meeting, indecent behavior will not be tolerated, and anyone who abuses use of the meeting platform will be terminated from the meeting. Business will be handled at the times indicated on the agenda. Business not included in the allocated time will be tabled to the end of the meeting to allow for timely logins and remote attendance. The committee members are asked to announce themselves when making a motion and second, so that it is clear to the audience and minute takers who made motions. All votes will be by roll call. When business indicated on the agenda has been completed, the members will vote to adjourn the meeting, signaling the end of the meeting and the termination of the eCat recording. All participants will be disconnected from the webinar at that time. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Let's see if Michelle has joined us real quick. No, not yet. Okay, well, it's 6:36. I say we have we have quorum, but let's go ahead and take roll call.
Greg Barger.
Karen Chan.
Beth Devonshire.
Kathy Foster?
Amy Gershman here.
Emma Gershman here.
Kristen Hay here.
All right, and it does look like we have quorum, so let's get going. I saw that Kelly did share the meeting minutes. Do have folks had the opportunity to review? Any questions, any updates to the meeting minutes? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, let's go ahead and vote to approve the minutes.
Barger, yes.
Chan, yes?
Devonshire, yes.
Foster, yes.
Amy Gershman, yes.
Emma Gershman, yes.
Hey, yes.
Thank you. And thanks, Kelly, for getting that all documented for us. Okay, so event debrief. I can't believe it's been a whole month. Goodness. Amy, do you want to go ahead and give the debrief on our Pride event?
Yeah, I'll have to rack my brain too, because it feels like ages ago, even though it was only a few weeks. I think it went really well. I think we had, I think the final count was over 800 people in attendance. It was peaceful, celebratory, lots of great feedback. Everybody seemed happy, and I don't know, so it was a good time. I think it felt the traffic felt steady, but a little bit less than the first year. I'm not sure if it was an interest thing, like if just people wanted to check it out the first year and maybe the second year was a little bit slower, or if it was a promotion, like if we promoted less or in different places. Yeah, I'm open to any and all feedback. I did send a survey to all of the vendors and volunteers, and I think the only thing that stood out was if we did it again next year, promote more. Like Janet from Hammer and Stain said that we should lean on the people who are vendors to actually help more with promotion, to get the word out to their mail lists. And then the other thing was people missed having scheduled activities or events. Like last year we had the dancers there and Wayne Potash and stuff, and I think people thought that would draw more people in at different or specific times. I met with Jen Cummings like 2 weeks after, and I've got a list of notes from her too, but does anyone else want to add anything for feedback?
I think it went really well, Amy. I think you worked too hard to make it happen, and we need to figure out how to do a better job of sharing the work. But I felt like, every time people are so appreciative of being there and having a place to celebrate. So I think it was great. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm really proud of all of us for doing it.
No, and I think it's important. There were 2 other Pride events, I think, near us on that Sunday too. I think Sharon's was that day, and somebody had told me that there was another one. And I was talking, I think it was Kathy or Ellen who had made the comment, yeah, we don't think it's as busy as last year. So they said, think back to when you were a kid and even just having the event itself. So don't worry about the numbers, just always worry, be more kind of focused on the fact that we do this in the town instead. So I thought that was positive feedback too.
Yeah, very.
I thought the turnout was larger this year than it was last year. Wasn't that the
I know,
case?
Craig. You kept cheering me on. That you're keeping me going.
You were so nervous about it. I had to keep telling you that the numbers were going up and up. I didn't realize there were 800. That's extraordinary.
This is what I do. I'm a UX professional. I measure things by data, and I was looking for the numbers to like make me feel like I was getting the intended outcome. So
I thought it was a fantastic event.
yeah, it was really good.
People were smiling. People were interacting. I thought the grilled cheese woman was just the lines there were incredible. So I thought that she should come back, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no question about that. But I just thought it was just a wonderful celebratory event, that there was no negativity at all. It was all positive. And I kudos to everybody who was involved. it was a terrific event.
I agree with Amy that we need to figure out the PR part and start that really early, as soon as we know the date, and really start to spread the word. And also kudos to Emma for those t-shirts because they were a huge, huge success. Thank you.
Yeah, so I have like notes that I definitely jotted down, and Emma's tie-dye t-shirts was at the top of my list. I just think it was such a way to really kind of take a different look at the t-shirts we purchased and to get some additional excitement about it, and exactly the reason why we needed Emma on this committee. So I feel like that was such a huge hit. I think that leading up to the event, I want to also make sure that we kind of thank our sponsors again. And so whether or not we do it in this forum or not, but maybe to read out at least some of our very large sponsors, and of course the town and the select for allocating the from Stonehill for us to leverage for the event, but also the Beanery. I mean, they did that drink for us, and that was kind of the first time working with in collaboration with them, and we just really felt that partnership. And really what probably stood out to me the most is having been on this committee now since I guess it's 2016. I don't think that's the date that we landed on. It's just amazing to see kind of the evolution of this group, because what I'm most proud of is the partnership and all the connections we've made, and opportunities to work with other groups in town to help bring an event like Pride forward. And I loved seeing the Y there and offering us volunteers for the event. I love seeing RMK continuing to support us, and all of the other various vendors that came forward, and all the volunteers who came that day as well to help support our annual event. So I just think that speaks volumes to just what this committee has been able to accomplish. And yes, I think I completely agree with you, Kathy. Amy, as our leader and spearheading this completely large, enormous project, I can't believe how smoothly the day went. And it was also just such a beautiful day. So I think that really helped kind of culminate it all into just a wonderful, happy event. So yeah, I mean, those are some of the things that I wanted to make sure we highlighted. And I don't know, Amy, do you mind just reading off who our sponsors are for Pride, just so that we have that on record?
Yeah, I have it in a spreadsheet. Hang on one second.
While you're doing that, my recommendation is we decide really early, at least if not this meeting, in our September meeting, if we're going to do it again. And then we have a really early meeting, like in October, November, and just start to plan it out and take roles. Not to work too hard, but just to start planning so that it doesn't get to March and April and we have to scramble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think maybe part of that too is folks still have it fresh in their minds. I mean, I would say I think we should do it again, but it's easy. I'm not Amy. But we're certainly happy to help. And so 2 years in a row, it seems that folks might be looking for it for a third year.
Yes. Karen, can I read off the names in a little bit? I have to find the spreadsheet. I don't want to lose my train of thought because Jen had some really specific feedback, and I think it will factor into our decision making. The board for the NRT is a little bit nervous about safety. They know there are a couple people who came in and were questioning the event and who made a fuss on social media and actually followed through with a physical presence there, it was fine. They were just checking it out. There was nothing objectionable. They talked to Alicia, the librarian. They walked around in their red, white, and blue, which is great, and said actually put a positive follow-up on social media after saying there was nothing to object to. But what if we had a drag queen reading a story hour or something that they thought was, you know, unacceptable? Then how would we handle it? And so there's that. There's the fact that there's a board in charge. It's not just Jen or her team that are making the decisions. So I know that she had a board meeting recently, and she was going to bring it up with them, and she's not even sure if they're even going to want to do it again. If they do, she said, "Is there anything we can do?" We had asked to have a police presence on the ground in the event area, and we didn't get that, which made her a little bit nervous too, or maybe nervous also. And then she said also, they probably are going to charge us the full price next year. The board members were questioning whether they were making any money off the event or taking a hit for the event. And so she just said, heads up, there's a chance that we wouldn't get a discounted rate again. As far as the size goes, she said we probably could have fit, you know, 4 or 5 more vendors and that's it. Then they'd have to change the space and kind of like rethink the whole layout. So but I don't think, unless I had a partner in this, like I couldn't handle more than that many vendors anyway, as far as like correspondence and mapping it out and setup goes. So I'm okay with that. I think streamlining where we are and like kind of iterating on that would be fine. I'm trying to think of if there was anything else. She gave me lots and lots of feedback, but I'm just looking to see if anything was, and we did talk about like if we weren't going to have it at the NRT again, we threw around some other ideas, and one of them was doing a series of community events that were pride themed, like having a book club, and then Hammer and Stain is already a big supporter and they do a drag night, and getting the Y to do some kind of pride themed activity, and like doing like leading into a Pride Month rather than one event. That's it. I'll let everyone know like what the outcome of the board meeting was, but those were kind of her thoughts.
Well, I think we should be offering to have a conversation with the board. I'd like to know who the board members are, and I feel for Jen having to be the front person, but I think we should be having a conversation with the board. They're all members of the Easton community,
Okay.
and I think it's important to have that opportunity to talk with them, probably in person. I didn't hear anything from, maybe I missed something. I didn't hear anything from Jen that she thought it went well.
Oh, she did. She did think it went well. She really
Okay.
did. There was lots of things. Yeah, overall wonderful day. She made it really clear that the people who worked that day, she gave them the option to work. Like everyone was there because they wanted to be there. Everyone had fun. Nobody opted out. She gave them an out if they were nervous about safety. Overall, like we have a great working relationship. We're like high-fiving and telling each other how much we appreciate each other all the time, Craig. Like it overwhelmingly positive. I was just trying to pull out the things that I thought might impact our decision making, because
Sure,
I've got like
sure.
3 pages of notes.
Now, there were 2 police officers, one at the front gate and one at the back gate. So there was police
Yep.
presence. There's no 2 ways about it. I'm not sure whether having a police officer walking around would have made a difference. I doubt it, but that's something to talk to the Jen and the board about. I think that I don't know who the people were that were on social media or who showed up, because I didn't see any negative interaction at all. So I'm not sure where the concern comes from. I know where the concern comes from, but we've done it twice now, and we haven't had any issues that I can point to. And I think that it's more police presence. I'm not sure that makes a difference or whether that's a good idea. I see Beth shaking her head, which is good. I just think that we need to meet with the board just to hear directly from them if they have some concerns. What are the concerns? If they want to make money, I mean, I can understand that. That's fine. But I think we should have those conversations. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I definitely would like to have that conversation with those folks so that they can hear directly from us. If they have some concerns, they can talk with us about those concerns.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
happy to join on that because I feel I actually sold one of the people the flags. So I knew right away who they were. I've never seen them. I just knew who they were, what they were doing, and that's fine. I don't want to live in a town where one or two people are going to dictate whether or not we have an event which supports inclusivity. I just don't want to live in that town. So I think and they have a right to be there also, as long as they're not being disruptive, as long as they're not, coming to a point and they're threatening and harassing, they have every right to be there. So I also, yes, if we had a drag queen, there might have been something, but we didn't. And if we did, we could have taken care of it. We did have two police officers who were constant. I saw both of them on both ends. So I'm happy to talk with folks. And even I saw some of the social media after, which was interesting because there was, more comments about quote transgenders, which is not an accurate term. And how they didn't understand that the Pride event was going to have information for folks who are transgender, when the whole Pride event isn't just for quote gays, it's for the whole LGBTQ community and for us to support the entire LGBTQ community. So I think I'll go back to Kathy and Ellen's point. If we're not going to have an event because we're afraid of folks not supporting or being disruptive, that's not helpful. And it's not helpful for the folks who are growing up in this town that we're going to cower and let just a handful of squeaky wheels determine what and when we do it. So if I'm happy to talk to the board, I'm also happy to look at other venues. Like we have the church who, Pastor Polk has been saying for years, I'll have it. And quite honestly, that's great because if it rains, then we can go inside. I don't want to back away. I don't want to not have folks who are supportive of our community, who are in our community, such as a drag queen, reading to kids, because we're afraid of somebody coming and making a scene which isn't legal. So I have, bring it on, right? Like I don't have an issue with that. And I hate to be part of a town that would cower because of such a thing.
I do think though, if we need to first decide, do we want to have the event? Because you don't want to go to the NRT and say, we're going to have this event and then we're not going to have it. So as a committee, we need to first decide that we want to have it next year. And then we need to approach them and say, can we speak to them about it or another venue?
I motion that we have an event.
I second that motion.
All right, let's vote.
Marjorie, yes.
Chan, yes.
Devonshire, yes.
Foster, yes.
Hirschman, big yes.
Gershman, yes.
Hey, yes.
Oh, sorry, Michelle, we got in a rhythm before you got here.
Sorry.
I missed my last name. Michelle, do you want to round us out? I didn't hear your vote.
I said yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, Pride 2024. So we'll figure out the venue. I think we want to thank the NRT for their support. I mean, remember in 2022, they offered for us to have this first event and help to brainstorm with Amy to bring this forward, particularly Cummings, and we absolutely thank her for her support. And in 2022, they didn't even charge us, right? So I think 2023, we feel really good about what we put forward. I think it was an excellent event. And in 2024, if we need to find a venue for our location for where we need to have it, then so be it. But we definitely want to make sure we have a conversation with the NRT, particularly their board, to ensure that we understand their concerns and just know, where their safety issues reside. I just want to mention, leading up to the event, in talking to the deputy chief and working with Phil, we did, we were very well aware, and we had conversations about some of the concerns that we saw on social media. We were, talked about what we could do in preparation at the event, ensuring that we had folks there, in terms of having physical presence, but also so that the station and the shift knew that this event was going on. And, if anything were to happen, we're well aware of that. So I just, I want folks to know, and, people who kind of play back this meeting, that safety was definitely an area of focus for us, and that we did the due diligence in working with the police, partnership with the police, to ensure that safety was at the forefront of making sure that the event was going to go as smoothly as possible. And it did. We did not have any issues, and it was all very positive. I'm sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
I just wanted to say something, and I didn't get it out before we voted, but that's okay. I wholeheartedly, everything that Beth said, yay, Beth. I think, as a teacher and in education, a lot of the times when we need growth mindset, or we need change, or we need anything like that, it's going to be messy, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be awkward, but we need for all those things to happen to get from point A to point B. And I wholeheartedly agree. If we back down, they won. And everything that we've been working on, we're back to square one. We're partway through that change and that struggle, and that being that role model for personal growth and community growth, and we need to push through it. That's all I want.
No, and I think that's important. I also want to recognize that the comments and, that were on social media truly echo the legislation that's been passed. And they, there seems to be a movement. They're leaving the quote gays out, but there really is a firm target on trans folks. And as somebody who loves a trans child, I cannot in good faith not speak up when there's movements that are specifically and very ignorantly targeting a population that is already at risk for mental health concerns. And I think this would play into, and it plays into the whole agenda. I mean, there's all sorts of articles, the amount of anti-trans bills that are on, state lawmakers' desks or even federal desks. It seems to be that the talking points that were raised in our community echo those exactly. And I think it's more important than ever to show that that is not who we stand, that is not who our community is, that it goes directly counter to our mission of inclusivity.
I want to make two quick points. One is we did apply to the Mass Cultural Council for a grant for this event for next year. So we may have additional money if we get accepted. And the second one was someone I knew who was at the event. As they walked out, there was a slur on the street yelling at them. So I think that we have to continue just to fight that.
And that's the first I've heard of that, Kathy. And I think that that's important information to get back to the police as well.
Yeah, okay.
Because and if that person is willing to come forward, like that stuff has to be documented.
I'll ask them.
I don't think that the the intent to meet with the board is an adversarial um, meeting. It's rather to let them hear what we see as an appropriate event on the part of the community, and listening to their concerns. I think that's the way I would approach it. I I always love to hear my good friend Beth get on her soapbox, because I think she's a terrific spokesperson for diversity in this community, and I think it's important to have that conversation with the board. I know that you found the names, Beth, so at least we know who those folks are, and we can certainly, through Jen, see if they'd be willing to sit down and talk with a representative group of this committee well in advance of next year, so that I would prefer not to have another venue, because I think the NRT is a perfect venue. Everybody in town knows what the NRT is, where it is, and a lot of people won't go to an event that's sponsored by, or at least they assume is sponsored by a church, by any religious organization. So I think that I love Pastor Polk, and if it turns out that we need to do it there, fine. But I'd rather continue to try to work to get it at the NRT.
No, and I appreciate that, Craig. I also wonder too, are folks, there's a difference between concern and truly wanting to hear, like, okay, let's talk through the issues and how we can mediate those or mitigate those, versus I'm concerned and we're not going to do it. And I think that that's an important distinction to understand where the board is. And I don't have that information. I mean, I'm looking at some of the board members and I know them. I know a few of them.
Yeah.
So it's part of me, I'm looking going, I could see them saying, oh, I'm worried about it, but we still want to go forward. So I'm also wondering if that's what, and sometimes just messages get, especially if things are heightened. I also don't want to make people do things that are uncomfortable, but I also want to make sure folks, and if we have to pay, we have to pay. That shouldn't be the issue. But if it's not going to be open to us because of certain concerns, that's fine. But are we even at that point yet? Because I do think that we shouldn't change what we want to do because we're afraid of what might happen or who might show up. I don't think that is the way to best support our inclusive mission either.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think this is a great discussion. I appreciate all the passion around it. I just think we probably need to get a little bit more information, and then need to have that further conversation with the NRT board, so we can take that as an action. Amy, can you connect with Jen to kind of help facilitate that?
Yep, absolutely. And I'll I don't know, want me to just send an email and copy a couple of people on it, so that we can have just like at least start with an email conversation, and then we'll try to kind of suss out whether it's just general concern or it's concern with the intent to have it not be an option for next year. So
I think that would and I'm happy to have the discussion with them, or at least be on the email, and then we can go from there.
Great.
Okay.
I think we acknowledge their concern, or what we heard was a concern. We're not sure about whether or not the interpretation that Jen gave you was actually what they were saying, or because you haven't heard about what the board meeting was, what the results of the board meeting was.
Yeah.
So I think it's to say that we hear that they might have some concerns. We'd love to talk to them about it.
Okay, perfect. And so definitely, it looks like we're wanting to move forward with Pride Event 2024. I think Kathy, the sooner that we start planning, and then also kind of have different points of contact for each of the major, I guess I'll call them swim lanes for focus, whether it's our marketing, and then our vendors, our sponsors, I think, Amy tries to delegate and tries to have somebody kind of lead each of those areas. I think what we just need to be really firm about it, which is in order for us to have this event going forward, we really need to designate those subcommittees and have that allocated early and kind of designated, by October or something like that, so that we can really fully move that forward. And so, it's hard because we're a small committee, smaller than, what we'd like at this very moment. But I do think we kind of need that focus in order for it to just kind of go more smoothly and to not put everything on Amy's shoulders.
Can we have outside volunteers join our subcommittee and take on parts of this?
Parts of the ally list. I think that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that might be something, some of our allies might be interested in doing, right, at some point. So I think it's once we start to coordinate and figure out what those large buckets are, Amy, and maybe you can think about what makes sense in terms of parsing things out, we can start to move that plan forward. And maybe in September, we can start to organize and figure out what those additional subcommittees are and who can lead each one of those. How about that?
Great.
I think also what I'm hearing, though, is that we probably have an education opportunity in town around LGBTQ, or particularly around transgender, and specifically what's happening with a lot of the regulation coming through. I feel fortunate to live in this state, in comparison to some of the other states and what's happening. At the same time, recognize that we still do have an education opportunity. So maybe that's something, Beth, we can think about in terms of a training event, or maybe bringing in a speaker potentially. I don't know. I love our Pride event. I want to definitely do that, but I don't think that's a one and done. I think, as a human rights committee focused on bringing education to the town, it sounds like we might have an opportunity area here as well. I don't know if folks have any thoughts around that.
Another thing, I think it might be helpful if we do bring someone in, or if we're doing some education, if we can possibly partner with the schools as well. I know that this is coming up more and more at the high school level, and I would assume other levels as well. I mean, I know that folks have been, putting out fires as far as having litter boxes in the bathrooms, or requests for little boxes in the bathroom, which is actually a direct kind of homophobic or transphobic rumor that has been going on. And I know that Leisha and Kelly have both had to deal with it. So I think it might be helpful for us to kind of try to partner with them as well. And in some regards, I mean, unfortunately, the folks who might show up are traditionally the people who we speak to or understand our mission the most. So I'm always open as to how we can cross the divide or the bridge and help have these conversations, right? I'd love to invite someone who doesn't have the same opinion and engage in a civil dialogue and understand the issue. So I think those are helpful as well. I mean, just to be, quote, preaching to the choir constantly isn't going to move the needle.
Yeah, and I love the idea of school partnership, of course, Beth. I think, though, we end up potentially missing the group that we need to target. And that group are like kind of adult community as well, which, I think is challenging because, from the conversations that we've obviously had with Dr. Cabral and Chrissy Pruitt and team, there's a lot of effort happening underway around diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, right? I think even the focus around hiring someone and hiring a coordinator has shown some, dedication and effort in this work. I think the challenge for us is reaching other community members outside of the schools. And I think that continues to be our opportunity area as a human rights committee. So I wonder if then, we'd be tapping into other partners like folks at the library or the YMCA or other type of, adult interaction opportunities that we should be looking forward for as well.
I
And
absolutely agree, and I think that the religious groups in town are another group that we should be partnering with. RMK, like you've already said, the library, the Y, maybe the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, there's a lot of groups that we could approach about participating and co-sponsoring the event. Um, I think that's an important thing to do, Karen.
okay, so we'll tag this as a potential, focus area for us, maybe in the fall or in the winter, just to kind of get us started, and then we can kind of keep it on our agenda, try and think about, how we would want to get that organized, and our timing for when we can get that out to the community. Okay, excellent. I'm going to move forward from Pride. I'm going to talk about the other event that we had in town. Actually, June was a busy month for the HRC. We also participated in the Juneteenth with RMK and Veteran Services in town. Beth, do you want to give a quick update on that, since you spoke on behalf of the HRC for that awesome event?
Yeah,
You had to follow another speaker that she said, next time you go first, Beth.
I was on the agenda to go first. Yeah, that was tough. Although I do think that Angela's message was very important about calling out the actual and using the true language that her son has been called and her family has been called. It's not making us better by pretending it doesn't exist, and it's not making us better by sugarcoating it either. So I think that the speakers were all great. Angela did a wonderful job. I think it was important to hear her story and her family's story. I just enjoy history anyway, but Corey did a fantastic job just pulling people together. I wish that there were more people there. I did hear, so I don't know why, but I heard from a couple folks who I knew who were like, oh, I was just going for a walk, and I kind of was wondering what was going on. So I don't know how else we could have advertised it or anything. I think it's the holiday, especially up here, no one knows about it, or it's just kind of come to our knowledge within the past 5 to 10 years anyway. So that was part of it. It does sound like maybe there's going to be something every year that happens. The HRC did kind of use some of the Stonehill money to help with the food, because all the hot dogs were free. And I think that there was ice cream, but I didn't get it. But there might have probably been some money left over, because I do not believe that people ate all that was accounted for. But overall, I thought it was a great event. They had a speaker from Bridgewater State who talked about growing up in Texas and his own personal understanding of Juneteenth and how it was celebrated. So I thought it was just a good event all together. I mean, Craig, Karen, I know that you folks were there, so I don't know if you have any additional insight besides, yes, make sure that I do not follow Angela. That was easy to recognize.
Yeah,
I felt badly for you when you had to go up there after she gave her speech.
Yeah, I don't know if folks really know much about the event. If you didn't get a chance to see it, I think it was filmed and posted on ECAT as well. I was really impressed also to hear from the Veteran Services as well, kind of hearing their stories. And there was a female who spoke as well about her journey and how she, was impacted and her service as well. So I think that was all just a greater understanding of people in Easton and their service to our country. So I thought that was great. And yeah, I think it was a good event. It wasn't too long. It was kind of nice and short and sweet. And then, as Beth mentioned, the town did offer hugs and chips and ice cream to folks over at the center school location for a lunch and opportunity to interact as well. So I think it was good. I think it was we're happy that the groups reached out to us. And, in this case, we worked with RMK before, but we haven't had the opportunity to work with the Veteran Services in town. and Corey. And that's, again, kind of talking about different collaborative efforts we have that have been brought forward. This is another kind of new one that was really, just something different, and I think also resulted in a very positive day.
I think it's important to remember too that it's not a Confederate statue. It's actually in memoriam of the folks who died. Yes, they were mostly or all white soldiers from Easton who perished. So I think that my own, even hearing from folks about, well, why is there a Confederate statue in town? It's important to note that it's not. It's actually honoring the folks who fought against the Confederacy.
I'm very surprised, Beth, that anybody thought it was a Confederate. I don't know. They must be new to town or something. I don't know.
Craig, you never let the truth get in the way of a good story. At what point do you learn that?
All right. Well, okay, moving on. Next item on our agenda is fall planning. And so we talked about the potential LGBTQ plus education opportunity, and then what I had listed as well as our religious calendar. And so I think that's why we're actually meeting today, is because even though we said we usually kind of take a little bit of break in the summertime, maybe at the last meeting it was discussed that if we really need to get that calendar in circulation, then this meeting was pretty crucial for us to get that effort underway. So the religious calendar is something that we talked about kind of redisseminating back to the schools and, making sure that it's updated with updated information. But then I thought also Jen and Tebby had mentioned that it would be really beneficial for us to have some of additional education, or at least like a one-pager that went with the religious calendar, so that we could speak to why we put it together and why, the Human Rights Committee actually puts the effort into disseminating it and to the schools, and maybe a little bit of background around that. So I think so. Then there's the calendar piece of it, and then I think there is this one pager piece of it. So I do think, and I'll circle back with Jen because she's the one who kind of brought it forward. It seems like that's around it to see if she could help start to draft what that one page would look like. But I guess I wanted to see if anybody else had any thoughts around anything additional that we wanted to do, without just the calendar portion.
Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you say in last year maybe that they really need that calendar very early?
Yep, they normally get it a little bit earlier, but if we get it up and get it to the schools for this coming school year, we should be fine. I mean, last school year is over, so. But I also think that when we had the community meeting to meet the 3 candidates for the diversity and equity and inclusion candidates, all of them mentioned about religious holidays and kind of trying to work with that in education and whatnot. So I think that once we get an actual name, whoever the finalist is, I haven't heard yet, we can reach out to that person with this calendar and start those conversations of partnership. But I think it would be really key for us to get that person in place first. But I mean, they only had a half an hour and all 3 of them mentioned it. So it is definitely, that's, something that's on the front of their mind and on their agenda as an important issue.
Yeah, and I think it's not just the classroom. I know from friends of ours, and obviously the town doesn't set the athletic schedules, but a lot of friends had events over Jewish holidays, like very important Jewish holidays. So I think it needs to be brought up with the MIAA as well, if we can possibly just as a state start to avoid these issues. It's one thing, right? Don't go to practice, I get it. But when you're not going to have certain games or you're scheduling games, that's a much bigger topic and much more or far beyond what we're doing here in town. Because you usually play against somebody else.
do we have a new athletic director or Michelle? Is that something that just happened?
Yes, and I actually learned about it on Facebook. Yes, she was. I love
You
it.
looked at it on Facebook? Okay.
And that's how the school committee heard about it. I'm trying to find her name. It's a brand new. I'm sorry, like it was just forwarded to us. Her name is hold on 1 second. Her name is Mary McDonald, and she put out like an introduction letter, which I could forward to you, or I'm happy to read to you, or whatever. But she comes to us from. She grew up in South Shore Braintree. She has quite a bit of college experience, I guess, athletic administrator experience. I literally got this today and I haven't read it, so I
I
apologize.
don't know about it. I think what's important is that
I'll
picking up
copy
what
and
Beth
paste it
saying.
and send it to you all.
All right. Well, what picking up on what Beth said is she's probably the person we should talk to as the representative from Easton to talk to the MIAA about scheduling.
Uh,
Because
And
they're
I
not going to listen.
And I think it's great if we can work with this new position in the schools. I mean, that we had talked about sort of shifting the calendar to them, but at least we can work very closely with them and hopefully make more headway in terms of impacting both athletics and the faculty in terms of abiding by those rules.
Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of timing of the position. So I do know that they had that community interaction and then they're kind of moving to finalists. But my guess is that role wouldn't necessarily be in seat probably until the beginning of August. Does that sound right to folks? I would guess based on like giving notice and just timing and such. So I don't know what is the time frame that we need to get our calendar out to Dr. Cabral.
it would be nice to have it so it is in place and on the website by the start of school.
Which is August 30th, right?
They start actually after Labor Day, the students anyway.
Oh, really?
I can pull up the calendar.
Karen, I'll do it. We've been saying we're gonna do it, but can we all agree to just follow the same for one more year, follow the same format we've been following. If we want to add a one pager or some kind of language around it, great. But why don't I just do a draft of the same format that we've been using, and we can just get everyone's feedback and have it done by September. And then once that new the DNI officer is in place, I don't know the right language, sorry, but we can work with them to evolve it into something that might be bigger or more useful.
Amy, I had already started looking up some of the dates for the next school year.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Let's not try to work with format structure of it at this point. Let's just get those dates updated. And then I'll reach out to Jen about the one pager if that's something that she can help lead and pull together in time for getting that out with the planned, I guess, send date to Dr. Cabral by August 30th. How about that?
And Michelle, if somebody does get a like at the beginning of August, we can
August 30th is the first day for grades 1 to 12.
No, I meant the DEI position. If that got appointed, earlier in August, we could at least try to pull them in a little bit.
Right, and I think it could have already the decision made and we just haven't been told. Yeah, but I definitely think if we're going to start changing formats and whatnot, that might be people that we want to have in that conversation.
And I didn't even mean change the format this year, just to let them know that we do this and why we do this and get them on board.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
I would invite that person to come to our first meeting in September.
Yeah,
Excellent.
have a conversation with them so that they get to know what we're all about and what we're doing in terms of diversity and inclusion for the town and welcome them to participate with us.
All right. As soon as we are given a name, I will set that up and kind of put the bug in their ear. Do we have a
Yeah.
September meeting date? We don't have one yet, do we?
Well, yes, I did put one at least with the town so that we had the Zoom. It's 9/12 is the date that
October 12th? Okay.
I don't know if that falls on any holiday, religious holiday for that matter, but that's the date that we have slotted so
Okay.
far.
All
On
right.
9.
As soon as I find out, I will get that date to them and see if I can secure that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so that that takes us through fall planning then, I think. So between introduction to our new DEA coordinator, religious calendar updates, which sounds like Amy's going to start, and maybe Michelle, you have some feedback or already started to stuff, so maybe you can get that to Amy, and then and I'll connect with Jen about the one pager. Okay.
The
And the
other
ju-
thing involved planning is, are we going to do something at the NRT?
That was my question. That's why I thought we were having this meeting so that we would have planning sessions for the NRT.
Okay, wait. Well, before we leave the conversation real quick. So due date for this, we would like to have it August 30th completion. And I think we probably need to vote that we're going to let Amy finalize and get that into Dr. Cabral by August 30th. Does that sound right?
Or sooner if that's possible.
And I'd like to continue working on it as well. So,
Okay. So, but I think we probably vote that we review it all, we probably, maybe Amy and Michelle, you both can kind of review and maybe send to two of us or something like that for feedback, or the whole group for that matter. But that ultimately, we've already kind of voted that you both will kind of get that to distribution. Does that sound good?
So moved, Barger.
Second, Gershman.
Okay, so vote to have Amy and Michelle get the religious calendar to finalization at the end of August.
Barger, yes.
And yes?
Devonshire, yes.
Durance, yes.
Foster, yes.
Amy Gershman, yes.
Emma Gershman, yes.
Hey, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. NRT fall event. So, what are folks' thoughts around that?
I mean, an event at the NRT or just a table at the NRT?
So I think what we've traditionally done at the NRT is some sort of interactive art type of event. So that this way we have a physical presence there, we're promoting the HRC, and that we're also doing something interactive with the community focused around some sort of art product. I'll say this, we are short-staffed. I mean, we're 2 people down, and we're trying to also put forward an education event as well. So, unless somebody's really excited about this and wants to lead it, I may suggest that we opt to having just a table this year, but I want to leave that to the group to discuss.
I would concur. Amy, go for it.
I concur. I do think we could do a little more than a table, and I volunteer to do something that's totally low key. I'm being so rude. I had taken some screenshots of ideas and I can't find them anymore. I mean, just something small like arts and crafts, or last year we did the picnic tables, right? Like something smaller than that, but just something to engage people and get people to stop by and get, kids to draw the parents in, you know.
Amy,
What-
I'd like to help you with that.
Yay, good.
Christine,
Okay.
And then I can
What
ask
ab-
my
what about
DEI
the,
friend too for ideas.
what about the T-shirts that Emma did before?
Yeah, we have more tie-dye if anyone wants to tie-dye.
I mean, does that,
Uh-huh.
we do that with a table there? That draws people in for sure.
Yeah, I could easily do that. The only problem is I actually don't think we have enough t-shirts for all the sizes. I didn't check afterwards, but I know that small, medium, and large were the most common ones in a lot of requests for like children's sizes. And I know we had no smalls by the end. I think very few mediums, and we are starting to run out of larges. I think it's fun. Like I have fun doing it, and it's a great way for everyone to get a good experience. But I would totally do it again, except that would be one thing we need to account for.
I
You
can
know,
look through, I have them in the house, so I can look through and see what sizes we have. And
You
then
can always order some more. You can
Yeah,
always
but-
order some more.
Yeah.
But I love the t-shirts. They were great. But I think that what we've done before is kind of drawing kids in and have them done something that was, we did the tie-dye and their parents paid. So maybe we could come up with some kind of arts and crafts. What about like some kind of pins or something that they could decorate and we could give them?
Okay, so it sounds like yes to participation at the NRT for the human rights. It sounds like yes more than just a table and some sort of maybe an arts and craft project. It sounds like Amy and Kristen are willing to kind of brainstorm around some ideas there. Kathy, if you'd like to maybe join them with that, that would be great. And then on the flip side of that, maybe to also consider at the same time still offering to sell our HRC t-shirts, and with the HRC t-shirt sell the option to tie-dye. So I feel like that maybe is the like extra, that we put forward. But I think Emma brings up a good point as to whether or not we have enough sizes to offer. So it sounds like Beth is going to evaluate that, see where we are. And then if there is a need for more t-shirts, what is the committee's thoughts around ordering some more?
I think it would be okay to order some more, especially for next year's Pride, because worst case scenario, I'll do it again there because those are the most needed sizes. Also, if that's like too much to ask or too much for everyone to make a commitment to, like I can look for another idea that's not as hands-on as tie-dye. But I mean, we did the beads before. I'm sure we could come up with a slightly more convenient solution because we couldn't tie them. But if we found something a little easier, like more that speed, I could definitely work on that too.
We have money in our account. I think we should go ahead and order the t-shirts. We're going to use them at Pride. We should just evaluate what we have and go ahead and order them. Remember, we were worried about our inventory, and now we're down. So let's go for it.
I agree.
I'm all for it too. I did think if I had, maybe we want to order Pride t-shirts next year. So just saying maybe reserve some money for Pride t-shirts that are not HRC t-shirts, but Easton Pride t-shirts for next year. Also, I got one of Stoughton's t-shirts for Stoughton Pride, and they were awesome. Like, so if there's any like vendor options, they're just like, I don't know, more wearable.
Okay, so let's reevaluate t-shirts then. It sounds like we need to figure out what we have in inventory, and then maybe what are other options we have for what else we want to order going forward.
But for
Okay.
NRT, let's agree that we do a booth, definitely. Worst case scenario, we just use the tie-dye and the t-shirts and maybe the beads that we already have, Karen, but we can rethink that. But let's also have Kristen and I can chat offline, Kathy too if you want, and then
Michelle too, I think.
okay, great. Awesome.
And let's evaluate what we have. We didn't order that many, but I do think we could order more t-shirts.
Yeah.
So that's something that we can, if we order by our September meeting, we'll have in time for NRTs. Go then. Okay. So speaking of all the money that we have, a treasurer update, which, our treasurer has resigned, unfortunately. But Beth, you got an updated summary, didn't you?
I did just the other day. So if folks made deposits this week, it won't. I have the grand total being $4,126.96.
That's what's left, Beth?
Yeah.
As an
I
update,
I didn't put in expenses for Pride yet, which is probably about $1,000, just so you know.
Can you repeat the number, Beth? I'm sorry, one more time.
Yeah.
wait.
Hold on. If you give me the permission, I can show you.
Okay, Kathy. Go ahead,
I was
Kathy.
there for today. We have $4,673.96.
Okay, perfect. So that reflects Kathy's deposit as well as my deposit
Correct.
today. And then it
But-
sounds like,
As Amy said, we need to do the expenses.
okay, so we'll subtract Amy's Pride expenses. Okay, perfect. So about 3,600 is what we anticipate.
Significant. And remember that we're into a new fiscal year. So as we go towards the fall, feel free to request a meeting with the select board for some Stonehill money. Don't
Okay,
forget
and
that.
Amy and Kristen, you and Kathy, think about what that art project might be. Know that we have potentially have a budget, and we don't have to look through our basement for stuff, which is what we typically do. Okay, so that would be great. Awesome.
And Kathy, when are you going to hear about the grant?
I don't know. I went online just beforehand. I don't think till the fall.
Okay.
And it's
Kathy, is that grant a reimbursement grant or just a straightforward, here's the money, use it as you will?
It's pretty straightforward. Use it as you will. I mean, they'll give it to the town, and then we'll have to get it. But
Okay.
But it was typically for festivals and, right, Kathy?
it's specifically for Pride.
Right.
Pride.
Okay, thank you for getting that in, Kathy. Appreciate it. Any committee interested in serving in our treasurer role? Oh, thank you, Kathy. Thank you. Okay.
I will give you the books the next time I see you at pickleball.
Oh, you have the books?
I do. They're right here.
And I have copies of the turnover form. So if you want that, they gave me a bunch of copies today.
Oh, you mean, yeah. No, I have those forms, and I have the request for a check forms. I spoke to the treasurer, but all right, so I'll talk to you and get updated. Should I talk to Liz also? Well, I'll figure it.
Yes, I think that would be wise.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Really appreciate that. Kelly, don't forget to put that in the notes. Kathy Foster is our new treasurer. Okay. Website up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kathy.
No, just so Amy, you need to get your receipts to me so we can send them in.
Kathy's on it. Okay. Website update. Really no updates as of right now. I think we are waiting for the Easton Public School website to be up and running because I know they were doing kind of major reconstruction of that website. And I think once that is done, we wanted to try to have somewhat of a mirror link and some stuff there. So we're kind of not really doing anything with our website until that happens. Amy, any other updates from your perspective? Okay. So that is the website update. We're waiting for the EPS website to be up and running. And I don't know, Michelle, do you have a timing of that? Are they hoping to get that done by the beginning of the school year?
I believe that that's the goal. It would launch the beginning of the school year, but I can double check and let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next item is summer meeting schedule, and the thought was to not have an August meeting and instead meet again September 12th. How do folks feel about that?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, September 12th at 6:30 p.m. Thank you. Any other action items we haven't covered?
So, should I send out an email to our allies that we have 2 vacancies?
Yes. Yes, please. Please do. And I'll reach out. You know, we had some folks that had some interest, and I think maybe just, you know, folks are in summer vacation mode, but I'll reach back out to some of the people that have mentioned interest and see if anyone is ready to move forward or willing to. Thanks, Kathy. Okay, let's see. Do I have any public participation? Oh, I do have someone here. Just real quick. I do see we have someone from not on the committee on the call, so just wanted to see if there was anything that they wanted to bring forward, but I don't see anything in the chat and I don't see any raised hands. Do you?
Nope.
Okay.
Whoever it is, if you want to join our committee, let us know.
We're a fun bunch. We are a fun bunch. Okay, well, thank you for joining. And okay, we've had a very productive conversation today. Lots of good updates. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Barger.
Second, Durance.
Barger, yes?
And yes?
Devonshire, yes.
Durance, yes.
Foster, yes.
Amy Gershman, yes.
Emma Gershman, yes.
Hey, yes.
Thank you. 7:44, and thank you, everyone. Have a great rest
Okay,
of your
okay.
summer. See you in
Yep.
September.
Have a nice summer,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Enjoy
you.
it.